I grew up in Los Angeles and New York simultaneously. So I like to tell people I was a 6-year-old during the time of the LA riots, and I was in the 10th grade at the time of September 11th, and I was president for both. Kind of like a 65-35 split between LA and New York, but both of them had a big impact on who I am and my mentality and so on and so forth. So yeah, I grew up in LA, I grew up in New York. Like to throw this in there too with the whole New York vibes, big Caribbean influence in particular. So I want to shout out my Arubians, I want to shout out my Jamaicans. So yeah, so that's where we grew up.
What are your hobbies?
My hobbies? Man, hobbies. I like to say my passions, man. My passion has always been like in sports and music, and I believe it or not, I love fashion on the low, but not fashion in the traditional sense. I like fashion in the sense that I can design what I want to design and make cool what I want to make cool. Take a little bit of nothing and make it into something. So music kind of like took over, I would say, from like the ages 19 to like 30, in my 30s. Like to use music as a method of like spreading messages and educating in a sense. So on the low, I'm a nerd. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a nerd, and I'm not I used to like run away from that, but yeah, I'm a nerd. I like to do a lot of research. My family could definitely tell you that. I'd like to do a lot of research. I like to be informed on things, but try not to ruffle too many feathers, but I'm very convicted by what I believe in as a result of that research. But yeah, music, fashion, sports, and just informing myself on things that I need to inform myself on. So those are my passions, and as you see, those things kind of transcended into my children and what we do, because I feel like those things like bring us together. So yeah, that's that.
I heard you like helping your community.
Anybody that knows me knows that my community means a lot to me, because growing up in the inner city, like summer times, those are the times where you really didn't have much to do, and you depended on the community to like stimulate your mind to keep you going. And so there were some people along the way that just really inspired me, that came to visit my school, whether that be like career day in elementary school, just everyday people that just made a difference. That like, you like your sports figures, you like your entertainment figures, but there was very rare that those figures actually came out to the schools that you went to. So it was real big to me to interact with those type of people, because it was like I could actually reach out and know that you're tangible. So the community means a lot to me in that same sense, because I come across a lot of youth that have the same aspirations or have the same interests that I currently do. And what I like to do is kind of leverage what I have to let them feel that what they would like to do, it can be a reality. So if you like to do music, let's link up, let's make a song. And if you've seen some of the clips again in the intro, you'll see where the youth and I collaborated and we made some beautiful music. Or even if it's just like to be someone like a big brother or a father figure for those that don't have it. And there were points in times in my life where I felt that I did without certain things and certain people. So I just really want to make sure that if I have the opportunity to be a blessing for somebody by just chopping up game with them and just helping navigate a situation, or just sometimes being an ear, that I like to be that member of the community to give my people hope that whatever that's prohibiting you from getting toward your dreams, maybe even maybe it's just the way you think about things, just to kind of give you a different perspective to know that it is possible. And if you liberate that one mind can mess around and like change the world. And that's just the faith that I hold on to. So, kind of like an each one teach one type of vibe. So, they say, you hear a saying such as, you are strong as your weakest link. So my thing is, we need to link up to make sure that everybody has that, the best of the best, or making the best of what they have to get over the humps that they have. So I'm all about just reaching out to my people, being part being on the ground level, and just say, hey, you know what, whatever you want to do, I may not have the resources, I may not have it, but I'm optimistic enough to say that, yo, we could find that. And so let's be a part of that solution, as opposed to dwelling in the problem. That's just my mentality towards things. So if I come across a youth that needs help with their jump shot, a drop step, I got you. If I come across a youth that, I may not know nothing about soccer, and you know what, let me tap into my network and let me hook you up with that person that can help you out with that. I may come across a youth that want to be a doctor, and I'm pretty sure that in between the people that I know, somebody is a doctor, and I do have, doctors in my network. But I just say that to say that anything that you can think of is not beyond that reach. So I like to make sure that instead of sitting back talking about, the inner city, or this is going on, how can we be a part of the solution? That's just my thing, and that's what I'm all about. So it's just enriching my community, and in particular, my younger brother, Uncle Mo, which y'all met, he growing up, he had was diagnosed with autism, and at that time we didn't know what it was, and so it was just kind of like, what to do. You're talking about the early 90s, and it wasn't all these resources that are out now, and I found myself getting into like little childish fights with other kids from or the children, sorry, y'all know I don't like that word kids, and I'll explain it to you later. But with getting involved with other youth at the time when I was a child, in silly skirmishes over making fun of my brother, and I realized at an early age that I can't fight everybody. I'm not a big dude, never was, so it's just fighting everybody because you made fun of your brother. It's just it got tiring. So what I set out to do was use music, fashion, social media to educate youth about social inclusion for youth with and without disabilities. So my thing is, I've always been about linking those two worlds together, the individuals that don't have disabilities and individuals that do have disabilities, bringing those two worlds together and facilitating the dialogue. And I'll just kind of give you a little brief vibe on where my mind is regarding that. It's like a person without disabilities, right? You can sit back and go to the mall at any time, this before the quarantine, go to the mall, link up with your friends, whatever the case may be, and on a social tip. But an individual with a disability, they may have those same interests, but because of their disability, it's like they're stuck. And then because of certain perceptions, it's like, oh, he's making noises. These are for the people with disabilities. He's making noises, or somebody that may have a tick, or whatever the case may be. They get judged on their outward appearances, and people are probably reluctant to hey, I don't know about that guy. He's different, and it's just one of those things that it made me kind of sick to my stomach watching that, because that's what my brother went through. Was they would make fun of his speech. This is, like I said, this is back at the time. I'm not looking for sympathy, but it was just okay, what are we gonna do about kind of bridging that gap? And I feel like if I'm a person that loves music, and at the time, I made a couple of catchy tunes in my community that people, rallied around and embraced. I'm like, how can we utilize this attention to benefit this population, this group of people, and everyone that's affected by it? And I don't care who you are. Everybody knows somebody who lives with some type of disability in some type of capacity. And, that's just that. And it's just kind of, sometimes you got to bring it to the forefront, especially youth, and they just got to, once we trigger that frame of thought and facilitate that dialogue, then it's like, oh, okay, and maybe I'll have a different approach, as opposed to kind of trying to get the next laugh with my homie, whatever the case may be. So that's, what I dedicated a good portion of the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years to. So no, maybe even longer. No, maybe since probably like 2009, I've been doing on the ground, doing some work, especially out in New York. You know, shout out to the whole Rockland County, everybody that met me at that point in my life. I was working with a company, in particular, just bringing young adults in the community, using the community as a classroom, and it was such a beautiful thing. We did cool videos that got featured on Autism Speaks. We did projects that yielded recognition from the states, from senators, from the mayor at the time. It was just beautiful. I'm like, look at this. A guy from South Central, from the inner city, utilized his pen at the time to just bring people together. And sometimes I reflect upon that, and it was such a great time in my life. I wish I had more resources, but that day would come. But yeah, I really enjoyed like I said, immersing myself in the community, and like I said, I don't do it for the recognition. It's just a matter of somebody needs to open their mouth to bring certain things to attention to make life more enjoyable for all parties involved. And when you think about good business has to work for everybody. You know, it can't just be beneficial to one party and the other side, you know, suffers. It shouldn't be like that. It should be some type of equity. You know, everybody preaches equality, but it's just like, you know, sometimes you got to think about equity in that sense.
How did you get into music?
Long story. You ready?
Yes.
So I was a student at UC Santa Barbara back in like 2005, and I'm gonna keep it real. You know, I didn't finish college, and I wanted to do music. So literally, I just dropped everything at that moment in time, and I had the opportunity to work with an artist who was signed to Atlantic Records at the time, and specifically work as an intern for their camp. And I'm talking about, like, even though I was going out and doing all of that, like that typical stuff of like getting coffee in the middle of 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting food. This is all in New York City, by the way. You know, so I left Santa Barbara and went to New York City and became an intern. But I met a lot of cool people, and I got to see exactly, like, take this in consideration. A lot of people want to be entertainers, but I got to see the people who actually sign off on your favorite entertainers. So it kind of opened my mind up as a 20-year-old, like, yo, this is different. So it taught me a lot about the business of the game, and as opposed to just the one aspect of it that everybody sees. Everybody just sees the glitz and the glamour, but I got to see all the work that goes behind it, and which hence had an effect on me up until this day, because I like the video production, the music production, all the stuff where the real things go down at. I got a chance to, you know, be a fly on the wall, and like I said, meet some pretty cool people at the time to expand my mind to what this music game is all about. So, you know, that experience, it ran its course, and I eventually went to the suburbs of New York City, and Nyack, New York in particular, and met like some of the most talented people I ever came across in my life. And it was just a bunch of musicians just that played, people that played everything. I'm not name dropping for clout or anything like that. These are all true stories, but literally I was with two guys by the name of Steve Richter and Pedro Capo, and they were like really close. And I was doing opening for Steve, doing open mics, and I just end up rapping with live musicians and received pretty well. And that was like a vehicle within itself, and it allowed me to meet a lot of other people. So, you know, that's kind of like my introduction to music, and utilizing and leveraging it for the benefit of not just myself, but just others around me. And
how do you enjoy fatherhood?
It is the best thing ever. 'Cause I love you. How do I enjoy fatherhood? It is the best thing ever. Like, aside from like secondary to my faith, my beliefs, and all that good stuff. Being a father helped me understand myself on a whole nother level. Like, you don't know what it is about life until you actually have the responsibility to take care of others that depend on you day in and day out, who don't care about what you're going. It's like, put it this way, the children are not going to understand it. I'm like, if I'm lazy and I don't want to go out and do something that's going to put food on the table, they're expecting that. So it's like, it's a healthy pressure of making sure that my moral compass is always balanced, because a lot of me is depending on, it's shaping their experience, put it that way. A lot of how I think is molding their experience. So, and it's not all right. I am the most probably unconventional father that you'll come across. And I say that to say, I embrace all of the taboo or negative aspects about my life, and I communicate that with my children. I'm like so transparent, and people think I'm crazy for being transparent for a 7, 4, and a 2-year-old. But here's the thing. I'll put it to you like this. I grew up in South Central, and when it dawned on me that, like, this is, I'm sorry not to play spoiler alert, because this is really real talk, but when I found out there wasn't no Santa Clauses, I looked up in my roof, right, and I seen a hole probably about like that big, and I'm like, how this big dude gonna get down this hole? You know what I mean? Like, it was impossible, like virtually impossible. And I was probably about 4 or 5 years old at that time, and that's when it clicked, like, this dude really ain't coming here. So we put so much stock into lying to our children, whether that may be the tooth fairy, whatever the case may be, stuff that's not real. And then we get so upset when our children lie to us, when we spend a lifetime of their lifetime lying to them. So by the time it clicks to them, when they get old enough to figure out what's going on, it's like they're disappointed. Like, dang, I looked at my parent like a superhero and they let me down. So I'm taking the opposite approach. I'm keeping it real out the gate. Like, look, this is what it is. This is what it is. This is what it is. So we can build on that. That way, when you get older, my word has a lot more validity to it, as opposed to, oh, he just gonna lie to me about this and he just gonna lie to me about that. So I keep it, as they say, I keep it 100 with my children, and I feel like youth, they're bright enough to pick up on authenticity. So I'd rather be authentic with my children at all times, as opposed to just trying to like stroke their egos, because at the end of the day, we live in the internet age, y'all. Like, you know, we haven't figured this out already. They friends gonna tell them, or they gonna find out in a place where real quickly that you'll be like, yo, because I guarantee you that all of y'all don't have the proper security measures on your children's phones, whether it be a child all the way up to a teenager. And even if you do, these children are so smart and so crafty to where they can go around whatever firewalls you may have in place to figure out what they're going to figure out. So I'd rather my daughter and my son come to me and be like, yo, Pops, like, I'm thinking about X, Y, and Z, but I know there's a day that's going to come, because it's a transition. You know, they're not going to stay this age forever. So I'm planting the seeds for tomorrow, you know, the Most High willing that I'm able to see them later years. But we want to make sure that we just keeping it real. And that's how I approach all the youth that I come across. I'm like, I'm going to keep it real with you. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, you know, because I'm all about, you know, you hear this a lot. What's your why? What's your why? My why is the truth. And for some people, that truth could be super, super subjective. So I'm not dealing in feelings. I put my life on convictions. This is what I'm convicted by. And that's how I approach fatherhood. So it's such a blessing to know that I could literally sit down, let my hair down, be myself, and to know that my children is gonna, like, they may not like what I have to say, but they know that it's coming from a true space. So I enjoy this thing that they call fatherhood, because for many it's been twisted and skewed, whether it may be circumstances. Like, a lot of us didn't grow up with our fathers in the house. So whether, you know, whatever the case may be, we're here. I'm just trying to turn that tide to everything that's stereotypical about what I look like, and what I look like represents. And this is not a shot at nobody. This is just the reality. When you look at people that look like me, come from where I come from, it's just it's tough, and I empathize. I have nothing but love, and that's why I wanted to do this channel, was just to keep it raw, keep it authentic about this whole thing that we call fatherhood. So yeah,
what else do you want the world to know?
they need to like, subscribe, you know what I'm saying? Get the notification bell for this channel, Marqui plus the hobby. I'm just kidding.